All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a great question and answer episode for you today. If you ever want to get a question in the queue for one of these episodes, just leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or send us a message on Instagram and we'll put it in the queue. We're going to be talking about why sometimes your body responds better to training than other times in your life, how to stop tracking your food without regaining the weight. We're going to talk about stubborn fat specifically for middle-aged men was the question, but it applies to everybody. Rest periods, good stuff like that. So definitely stay tuned. If you're just watching this for the first time and you're like, where are you sitting? You're probably getting tired of hearing this if you listen every week, but we're currently living, working, traveling full-time out of our Airstream. We just passed the three-month mark of doing this, which is why you're looking out the view here. We're back in Texas as of yesterday.
Yeah.
We just wrapped up a month or so in Arizona, New Mexico,
We're those crazy
Colorado.
people that come back to Texas for the heat. I mean, I don't even know what we're doing. We don't know how to
Send
do
a
this
wellness
yet.
check for our mental health. Why are we? It's hot out there. I'm not even going to lie. But yeah, we've had a great last month, seeing a lot of new things and reuniting with some friends.
We got to go to an Airstream rally, our first one, which was just kind of cool. Really just to connect with some friends and everything that way. So
tell everybody what you got on your desk over there.
Yes, if you are watching this, if the new movie, the movie The Accountant with Ben Affleck, The Accountant 2, is coming out in theaters, and they did this limited giveaway where they were giving out these replica Airstream popcorn holders.
Yeah, the top opens.
It is
it's hard. It's kind of hard to open.
3D printed.
It's
I use
massive.
it for my pens. It's massive. It's amazing. And it's exactly the trailer that we have. Because right now, this is where we're sitting at these windows right here. We have the rear door. This is where you tow it from the front. This is the bedroom. This is the kitchen, bathroom. And this is the table and the lounge area. So it's the exact model that we have. And it's so amazing. Our friend got two and he gave us one. And I freaking love this thing. I keep my pens and pencils and scissors and things in here, remotes. It's amazing.
Adorable.
I love it so much.
Yeah, what a giveaway. I think AMC was not giving away, they were selling those.
Oh, really?
I wonder if you got the popcorn also, but
maybe if you bought popcorn, you got it for the first people to see the movie anyway.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it. We haven't seen it yet. When we get back to the Austin area, we're going to the movies if it's still there.
So thanks, Brad and Blair, not only for getting that thing for us, but from hauling it from Utah to us at the rally in Colorado. So you ready to get into these questions and answers?
Yes. All right, first question. Why does my body respond better to training sometimes, but not others, even when I'm consistent? This is a really good question.
You want to take this one first?
I think that that if you feel like you're spending the time in the gym, you're doing the things, and you're just oh, I'm not seeing the same results as I was at this period, and why is that? And I think that the first thing that comes to mind for me is that you really just have to think about not just your training, but what everything else that's going on in your life. What does your sleep look like? What does your nutrition look like? What does your stress levels look like? Because these things will also affect your training, not just what you're doing in the gym.
There's also this concept known as your training age.
Yes.
Doesn't have anything to do with your chronological age, but it's basically the experience level you have under your belt with specifically strength training, really. Cardio too, but we really see this mostly in strength training, lifting weights. But as you get more advanced in your training age, the same stimulus that used to cause you to get stronger, grow more muscle, that no longer works anymore. You need more stimulus to cause the same adaptation that you used to get at a younger training age. So I would tell this person to look at their experience level and maybe adjust their expectations, that now progress at the same amount of volume is going to look a little bit slower. And if you want to keep the progress coming at a close rate that you had when you were new, you're probably going to have to increase your training volume, meaning more sets and reps, more load, maybe different exercise selection. And like you said, be even more careful with the whole other side of training, which is the rest side. You might have to now really pay attention to getting that 8 hours of sleep, where you used to in your newbie gains phase get away with those late nights of 6 hours of sleep and not really having to care about your nutrition that much. So it's really just about tempering your expectations with your training age and the amount of resources you're willing to dedicate to the recovery side of the equation.
Yeah, it's similar to if you're just like, oh, I go into the gym and I bench press my barbell at 135 and now I'm not seeing progress. It's because the weight hasn't gone up on the barbell. But the same thing can be true if the weight's going up and we're still just doing, like, we're going in and we're doing our 3 sets. Hey, you might have been training so long that you might have to do 4 and eventually 5 sets.
And then the last thing I'll say about this is we live in a culture where everybody thinks that they should always be on a diet. They should always be cutting calories and losing weight. Well, if you've been stuck in that cycle and you have just constantly been restricting your food, there's no mystery as to why you've stopped making good progress in the gym, because you're not supporting yourself with enough calories to not only get through the workouts, but to fuel the recovery side. People forget that there's this balancing act between training and recovery. When something goes wrong, we always want to blame the training, because that's the easier thing to address. I can just spend an extra 30 minutes in the gym, but it's harder to pay more attention to what you eat and to
your sleep and your stress and all of those other factors.
Right. Those things matter a lot.
All right, that was a really good question.
It was.
Next one. If I stop tracking food, how do I maintain my results without sliding backwards? This is also a great question.
Yeah.
I actually struggled with this myself when I used to track, and it was like this fear of how to pull myself away from it, even though I felt like I knew what to eat. It's just like there's just like this piece of like, oh, okay, I put it in, I know what the calories are, what the macros are at the end of the day. Yeah.
It's kind of like learning to trust yourself without the tracking.
Yeah.
And when we take a client through this who we have used tracking with, we never just like flip the switch off and go from tracking to not tracking, because we want to test the waters and make sure. Here's the most important thing I'm going to say. Make sure that the underlying habits that supported the weight loss you had are now your default decisions and ways of coping with stress and ways of eating, that you don't revert back to a different way of eating, because that's the way that you're going to regain the weight. So we test the waters, we wean you off of tracking gradually to make sure you know how to handle all the situations and that the foundation of your nutrition is firm. It's the reason in our nutrition framework that we coach our clients through that we start off with those base level of habits, so that we can get more specific with tracking if we want to, but then we can go away from it, and the time that we spent building those underlying habits pays off and is ultimately the thing that sets you free. Because I'll say that, like, most people who track and lose weight go about it with just this, like, it's really just a math equation for them. If I hit this number of calories, if I eat this much protein, I just watch the weight go off. And they never think like, well, what am I going to do when I get tired of tracking and I get tired of playing this food Tetris
Thinking
game?
about what you're doing while you're tracking, like looking down at your plate, understanding. That's why we teach people to like also use the hand rule, to use all these other tools other than tracking, so that tracking is not like this piece that you want to keep doing forever. It's just, it helps you dial in some results. So you want to be able to step away from that and like you said, keep the habits in place, and not just because you're not putting it into your app. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and drive through McDonald's because I'm not putting it in my app today, and you weren't doing that when you were tracking. That's where you're going to see some, changes that you don't want.
Because if you don't, then macro tracking, calorie counting, it'll be just as unsustainable, or the results you get will be just as unsustainable as any other fad diet out there. If you lost weight because you cut carbs and that made you not eat pizza, donut, crackers, cookies, pastries, all that kind of stuff, and then when you get tired of restricting carbs and you go back to eating the way that you were, you're going to regain the weight. If the only thing keeping you in check with how many calories you eat is typing it into the app, when you get tired of that, you're just going to go back to the old habits just like you would with any other fad diet. So this is how people get tripped up with counting calories. So spending time, just to summarize it, spending time building the education on what nutrition looks like for you, problem solving how to fit realistic, sustainable nutrition habits into your busy life. That's the foundation that you need to build. And then when it comes time to stop tracking, don't go all or nothing. Wean yourself off over the course of 2 to 3 months even, and you'll never have to worry about tracking again.
Making sure those habits stuck. All right. I don't like how this question's worded, but I'll read it anyway.
All right.
I've seen a lot of crazy ideas on how to burn the last stubborn fat for middle-aged men. What's middle-aged men?
A middle-aged man asked this question.
What's the basic truth? I don't know. There's something about that.
I think the guy who asked this was like 48, 49 maybe.
I don't know.
Crazy ideas. Yeah, man, there are all kinds of crazy ideas.
So, crazy ideas on how to burn that last bit of stubborn fat.
I mean, you can just go in the grocery store and which is crazy. There's fat burning pills for stubborn fat. People will wrap things around their stomach, what they call waist trainers, to sweat off that last bit of fat. Okay, the truth is there really is such a thing as stubborn fat. We have an entire podcast episode devoted to this, so if I remember, I'll put a note to it in the show notes. But the point is, like, there are some fat cells on your body that are more resistant to losing fat than others. In men, it's typically around our lower stomach and in our love handles, and in ladies, they're typically on their hips and thighs. So what that means is, like, these kinds of fat cells, they don't want to give up the fat. Remember that all body fat is just stored energy. So since they're more resistant to fat loss, they're going to be the last place that you lose fat, which is unfortunate because that's typically the place where we would like to lose the fat first. I don't really care that, like, the first place I lose fat is in my cheeks. I could deal with a little bit puffier cheek, but man, if I could lose this love handle, that would be fantastic. But unfortunately, you don't get to choose what fat is lost at what time. So, what's the basics of how this middle-aged man is going to lose that last bit of stubborn fat? Well, it's going to be the same process that it takes to lose the not-so-stubborn fat. A womp calorie deficit. Now, the problem is, like, because it's the last to go, that means the last 5 pounds that anybody has to lose are going to be the hardest 5 pounds you have to lose, only because it took a long time to get to that 5 pounds. It doesn't really matter that these are stubborn fat cells. It's just hard to lose that final 5 pounds of fat because a prolonged calorie deficit is mentally draining. You're reducing the amount of energy that you're putting into your body. You have more mental fatigue, diet fatigue, your gym performance suffers. So you have to really decide, is staying in a deficit long enough to lose that last bit of stubborn fat worth it? Like, how often are you walking around with your shirt off? Will you really feel better about yourself if you lose that extra 5 pounds? In my own experience, no, probably not. Like, basically where I am at right now, like, I can spend the next 3 months in a deficit.
You mean this is as good as it gets?
This is as good as it gets, babe. I'm sorry if you're not happy. But, like, I've historically liked to spend about 3 months in a fat loss phase leading up to my birthday at the end of July.
Oh, man.
I know we're getting there. Just to see, for vanity reasons, like, how lean can I get? And over the last few years, I've pretty much decided, like, the amount of tedium that it takes with counting my calories and sacrificing weekends and things like that really isn't worth that last bit of body fat. He didn't ask, is it worth it? I just want to, if he listens to this, be like, the answer is to spend more time in a calorie deficit. And you could actually, like, increase your cardio to kind of affect the other side of the energy balance equation, which means just not eating less. But all that takes your resources, which may not be worth it, is my point.
Right. All right. What role does rest time between sets actually play in results? Is it true that rest period sets...
This was actually two similar questions that we just lumped together.
Sorry. First question was, what role does rest time actually play? Second question was, is it true that rest period sets at least 90 to 120 seconds helps build muscle?
So 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I think the first thing we should say is, like, at least this person understands that you are supposed to rest between things, because there's a lot of exercise methodologies out there that eliminate rest completely to keep you in the fat burning zone, keep your heart rate up, because they advise that that's the way to get results, is to don't rest. Just like the whole 60 minutes should be like your heart beating 160 beats per minute.
Right.
Because you burn all those calories, you're going to get the results that you want.
Yeah.
That's not true.
So the role that rest, so say we're doing three sets of dumbbell rows. We're supposed to do hard sets somewhere between that 10 and 15 rep range. Okay, so we do our first set, we do right, left. If we go immediately back to our right, we're likely going to get significantly less reps round 2, and then even significantly less reps round 3, because we haven't given our body enough time to recover.
Yeah. If
we take too much time and like 10 minutes goes by, we're not really doing any good by doing a set and waiting 10 or 15 minutes and then doing another set. So the role that the rest is going to play is going to let you actually, like, perform the next set to that hard set rep range.
I'll show you what the hard set, like what a hard set is, regardless of the rep range.
Yeah, a hard set doesn't really matter the rep range, but a hard set is where you're going to stop 1 to 2 reps before failure.
And if you do that, you are legitimately going to need some rest before you do the next set. A lot of people are just missing that part. They're not actually working their
Right.
muscles in a set hard enough to where they come anywhere near failure.
And so, I mean, I guess you could argue, yeah, if I just go right into my next set, I'm going to be working till failure, but maybe I can only do, maybe I did 12 reps set 1, maybe I can only do like 5 reps set 2, and a couple, 2 to 3 set 3 if I'm just going directly into it. And yes, you are working till failure, but if you're allowing yourself that time to rest, you're going to get more volume. You're going to get into that like 10 to 15 rep range each time you're doing that set.
Yeah.
So the time period really matters what you're doing and how much you're lifting. We recommend, that 60 seconds all the way up to 2 minutes for our accessories like our curls or biceps, rows, things like that. We recommend anywhere from 2 minutes up to 5 minutes when you're doing heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, heavy presses, heavy bench presses, all relative to the weight you're lifting. Like if Jonathan has like 350 pounds on the bar, he might need more rest than me if I have like 150 pounds on the bar. We're both squatting or something like that. So you're going to need like significantly more rest than I will. But,
the heavier the weight compared to what you can, not even compared to what you can do. There's a relationship just between how heavy the weight is against gravity and how much rest you need, and then there's a kind of a ratio of like how many reps did you do and how much does that affect how much rest you need to take.
Another thing that can happen if you're not properly resting is you just like you can't perform the reps properly. You get sloppy. You can't go through the full range of motion. So again, we're going to the gym. We want to spend our time wisely in the gym, and we want to be like getting doing things that get us results when we're in there. So making sure that you are paying attention to your rest. Like you don't need to be like start the timer and doing exactly, but making sure like just kind of like if you would weigh a piece of chicken breast to see how much it weighed, like do a spot check and make sure you are resting, depending on the movement, the appropriate time.
Staying off social media can help with this between sets.
That's where you start to rest way too long. But
I would just circle back and just specifically answer the questions. What role does rest time between sets actually play? Scroll that down in results. Rest between sets is the thing that allows you to perform an effective hard set. So that's the role that it plays. I'm just trying to summarize because we said a lot. And then is it true that rest periods between 90 and 120 seconds helps build muscle? I'd say yes, because
depending on the exercise.
Yeah. For accessory stuff, not your heavy squats, bench, deadlifts, and rows, that kind of stuff.
Right.
You need longer because the weight is just so heavy on those things. But that 90 to 160 to 120 second range gives your body enough time to adequately rest to put in a hard set, but it also doesn't flush out all of the metabolic buildup in your muscles to where it's like you're not going to ever get a pump. Like getting that pump in your muscles where you feel like they're swelled up during workout, that's part of muscle growth. It's like cellular fatigue and muscle damage. We actually want that. So if you're resting 5 minutes between sets of bicep curls, you're not going to have that cellular fatigue build up, and that you're going to be missing one of the components of muscle growth. So yes, it is one of the things.
Yeah. For example, today we were traveling, and this morning we got up and we took the dogs for a walk. We went to the gym. We had, there's a checkout time at these RV parks, just like a hotel, and we needed to do laundry. So we put laundry in, and the gym was right there. We went to the gym, and I did a bunch of time on I don't know, they have this weird elliptical machine. Anyway, I tried that out. And then I went over and did curls and presses and tricep extensions and things like that. And I was actually resting 30 seconds between, and I was just I never do that. I always take, a longer rest period. And I was dang, it really affects my next. No, it really affects my reps were dropping off so fast, and I was like, dude, I can barely get any reps in. You really do have to rest an appropriate amount of time to do to make sure that next set is as effective as your first set.
So that'd be an example of probably less than optimal training, but a great example of something is better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Why knee push-ups instead of elevated push-ups for those who don't have regular push-ups?
So regular push-up would just be one done from your toes, in a plank position all the way down to your chest.
I would say basically if someone has the capacity to do a push-up from their knees, I would prefer them do that versus an elevated push-up. If someone doesn't have the ability to do that without significant worming or strength, then I'll elevate them to a bench.
You said worming. I don't know.
Worming is
that's kind of a weird word.
Basically if you try to do your push-up and your butt comes up first and then your shoulders follow, or you're kind of waving up.
You're not staying in a perfect plank position. Tell everybody what an elevated push-up is. People might not know what that
Elevated
means.
push-up is where you're like resting on your knees and you're doing a push-up like into an elevated surface, like a bench. Or you can also do them standing if you had like a barbell rack and you can hook it on there and you can like do a push-up into the rack. I mean, often these are tough. They're tough to do because you're like, you know, falling into like a bar or something or a bench, and they're hard on people's knees. If they're doing them from their knees, and they're hard to set up if you're just like in a big gym and like people are using the squat racks and you're gonna be like, oh, excuse me, let me go do some push-ups and stuff. So I'll end the scaled push-up, like the push-up from the knees is the closest thing to a toe push-up. So I will always default there if somebody has the strength to do that, and I'll only go to this is just personal training, you know, opinion, but I will go toward the elevated push-ups if someone doesn't have the strength for the scaled.
And if you're not even there yet, you'd probably go to a wall push-up.
A wall push-up, yes.
It's really hard to push walls. I have tried that. They're usually heavy and very well attached.
Yeah, so we have a cool little resource that we should link, the perfect push-up.
Okay, make a note for that.
So it's like Jonathan actually came up with this and it was great. It was like help, like HELP, help yourself to push perfect push-ups. And so you can like use the word help to say like what's a perfect push-up, like hips and shoulders rise at the same time.
I'm not going to remember the acronym now, but we will.
What in the world would E be?
Everybody should do push-ups. I don't remember. We'll put the link to the YouTube video in the show notes. Okay. As soon as you brought that up, I'm like, boy, I hope she remembers what that acronym stands for.
I just used it the other day. I mean, I use it for people every day, like in coaching. I'll send them that video, but I'm like, really,
I mean, we did make that 5 years ago.
I'm really drawing a blank to the E and the L.
I wish I could help you get it.
Okay, what are some proper pre and post workout warm-ups and stretching? Okay. I have a big opinion on the warm-ups. Warm-ups are super important, and you know, we talk about this all the time about not skipping your warm-ups. What the objective of the warm-up is to, you know, warm up your body, like physically actually warm up your body. Yes, bring your heart rate up, warm up your body, bring your body through ranges of motion that you will likely be doing. So I change up the warm-ups,
and that's important because you actually increase the lubricating fluid in your joints by moving them and warming them up. Yeah. So that's important. Like, if you're going to be using them under a load.
Yeah. So like a general warm up that I will program for people will a lot of times have a static stretch. Like I love a Samson stretch or a couch stretch or something like that, or arm swings if we're going to be pressing or benching, or chest openers like on the Michael Phelps, like where you wave your arms were big, things like that. And then you'll go into 2 to 3 rounds of things like squats or lunges, push-ups or dips, maybe like a sit-up, maybe throw a burpee in there or something like that to bring your body through several ranges of motion and to warm up the temperature of your body and just get you ready to move. If you just walked into the gym, went straight to the barbell and put 135 pounds on it and tried to squat, it would not feel great. You won't run through the right ranges of motion. You could potentially hurt yourself.
Yeah. So like having done 1 million of your workouts, and this person's like, I think they might be asking for specifics, like, you know, a warm up that you might have us do would be, like you said, maybe like 10 spider reach stretches per side, and then 2 rounds of 9 air squats. We usually do 10 air squats, 10 push-ups, 10 or 20 sit-ups or in and outs is a very common warm-up I'll use. Or some with like some good mornings, some bootstrappers. Yeah. Every warm-up is going to have you use every joint in your body.
And stretch out what you're about to do. Like I'll use bootstrappers and good mornings and things like that to stretch out the hamstrings if it's a deadlift day, or if you're going to be doing some running. If it's lunges, I'll have you do some unweighted lunges in the warm up. If it's a press or something, I'll definitely have like push-ups in there. Sometimes we'll even grab like light dumbbells and do some light dumbbell pressing or things like that.
And most of your warm-ups are probably going to have like between 40 and 50-ish reps in it. So, it's not just like crack your knuckles
usually
and go.
Like 60 reps,
you should start to get a little bit of a sweat on and know that you're about to exercise when you warm up. But that's good, because I think it's everything we talked about is beneficial for the warm-up with the physical thing that happens to your body. But you'd be surprised how if you have a planned warm-up to do and you're going into the gym kind of unmotivated and kind of blah that day, you commit to doing that warm-up, bam, all of a sudden the endorphins start flowing, you got some blood flowing, and shoot, you might
It's
go
so
set
true.
a PR just because
It
you did your
happens.
warm
I
up.
mean, it's like you could just be like, I don't feel like working out today. Do the warm up. If you're, get to the gym, do the warm up. You will likely feel like, okay, I'm here. Let me go ahead and go through this.
And doing some, she asked about stretching too. Doing a couple stretches at the beginning in your warm up with the muscles and the joints that you're going to work is perfectly fine. It serves all the purpose of doing a warm up. Spending a lot of time doing any kind of like foam rolling or excessive amounts of stretching before your workout isn't really time well spent. You'd be better off to do that once your body is already really warm at the end of the workout if you have time. But honestly, if you're doing the correct kind of strength training program, you're already putting yourself through those, quote, stretches under a load. We do RDLs for a reason because it stretches our hamstrings out. The eccentric part of any kind of loaded bench press, that's a stretch on your tricep and your pec. Like, we personally don't emphasize doing a ton of stretching, more so probably with our more aged population.
Well, I also prioritize the time that the clients have. And so I would rather them go through like a 3 to 5 minute warm up, do their main lift, do their accessory lifts, and then finish the day with like a conditioning piece or a finisher, which, has some accessory band stuff and things like that. So you're hitting your glutes, you're hitting your biceps and triceps again, or something like that. I would rather you spend your time doing that than like going through that, skipping the part of, that last part of the workout that I would program and be like, okay, now cool down with stretches for 10 minutes because I just think you're going to spend your time more wisely with the other kind of finishers.
But if we have a custom training client though, and they do have the time to spend, and we see some parts where extra mobility would help them, then we'll put more stretching in the program.
We have like mobility courses we can like let you go through and like, month-long thing where it just builds upon itself. And that's great if you have the time, or some people might want to do it like if they're chilling, watching TV.
That's a great point.
But get down on the rug and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think stretching is great, but if you have a limited time, I would rather you be doing something else.
Very
personally.
well said. Speaking of training, here comes a commercial. We have training options for you, whether you would want to talk to us about doing a custom workout program where we coach you, or you already have everything under control and you just need workouts. We have options for you. So I'll put a link to our different training options in the show notes below. And we offer one-on-one nutrition coaching too. If you have tried many diets in the past and what we were talking about before, where you have freedom with your nutrition, where you don't have to track calories forever. If that sounds good, we have a process that we can walk you through. So I'll put a link for more information about our nutrition coaching in the show notes below too. We also give away free stuff. Go to our website. Every resource you could possibly need to get fit without us is out there. We would love if you hire us because, as I've said in an email recently, dog food's expensive. Food's expensive. We'd love if you'd support us, but we have a lot of free options for you too. So hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Like I said, if you want to get a question in the queue, leave a comment on YouTube here or drop us a note on Instagram and we'll get to it in a future episode. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a great day.